Mm, Hello, guys. So, in this playlist, we'll discuss about data governance concepts. So, basically, first we will see what is data governance means. So, mm, or we'll see like data governance in IT. You know, so the process of managing the availability, usability, integrity, and security of the data in the enterprise system based on internal standards and policies that also control data usage. Okay, so in basically data governance ensures the data is consistent and trustworthy and doesn't get misused. Here, okay, in simple words, see, in every organization or corporate, you know, uh, we use users data. So these users data, right? So it has to be protected, you know, because there involves a privacy risk for a user, you know, so that shouldn't be exposed. So this data governance team, you know, basically they ensures the data is consistent and trustworthy and doesn't get misused. Okay. So in this, we have variety of topics, you know. So one by one, we will see. The first, we'll see about the centralized and decentralized data governance model. Okay. So, okay, let's take this image now. Okay, centralized and decentralized. Okay, now on. Mm, Centralized means um, all data management decisions, policies and rules are controlled by one central authority or team. Example, IT team or data governance team, which means here the decision, is taken by one authority or else one team, you know. So for example, like we have data, right? So that data management, you know, that data management decisions or policies and rules are controlled by one central authority or team. Okay. So this team here will make sure that everyone in the organization follows the same rule. This one, but okay, in an organization, we have project. So for that, like data has to be there. So that data, how it has to be secured and protected. So that decisions, data management decision will be taken care by this dedicated team. Okay, a separate, um, a central authority team. Okay. For example, let's take real world example like a principal, so a principal in a school or college will make all the rules to students, so in that school, the students will follow the rules which is uh, made by the principal, so that rules and regulation will apply to all the students. Okay. And the advantage of using this model is centralized model is uniform rules. The rules are uniform across all the teams. You know, okay. For example, there are 10 teams in an organization. Okay, so all the 10 teams uses some kind of a data. Okay, so for these data, there will be a centralized authority team. So that team will set some rules and policies. So how to protect that data. So these rules will be followed by all the 10 teams. This is nothing but a uniform rules, you know, and less confusion because there is one group in charge. What I said, that one team is there, right? So they will be in charge. So there is less confusion, So all the 10 teams will follow the same rules provided from this one team, you know. Consistency access across the team, you know. There is a consistency, you know. And what are the disadvantages we can see, can be slower to respond to specific needs of different departments. Okay. I said there will be a 10 teams, right? So in which there is any one team, for example, out of the 10 team, uh, if that particular team require some specific needs, you know, that needs cannot be fulfilled. The reason is here it is slower to respond, to specific needs. So here that won't be like okay. And here the less flexibility is there. Okay. Teams may feel disconnected or restricted, handle their own data. That out of 10 teams I tell, right? So the team, they don't have the this one. They are restricted to make decision to some rules on that date. Okay. So this is all about the centralized model. Okay. And we will see about the decentralized model. Okay. So here, um, the data management is distributed across various departments or teams. Okay. So where in the centralized, right? I said one team will uh, put the rules for all the 10 teams where they use the data, right? Likewise, here it's not like that. Okay, there are 10 teams. The, each team have the liberty to put some rules on policies. Okay. So data management is distributed across various departments or teams. Okay. Each responsible for its own data governance policies. Okay. So team make decision according to the guidelines, but with more freedom to make decision based on their needs. You know. So here the individual team will follow some guidelines. Okay, but still they have the liberty, they have more freedom to make decision based on their needs. Okay. Different teach, for example, a simple real world example I'll tell. Consider teacher in a school or college. Okay. So here different teacher in different classrooms being able to set their own rules for their students within the general rules of the school. Even though the principal will put some rules, but there are 10 classes, I mean, there in each class, the professors or teacher will some rules as per their needs. Same, if you consider this in IT, on their own needs, the different team will put some rules. This flexibility, it's not there in centralized, but in decentralized, this is the flexibility you have. And the advantage is team can make decision faster and more specifically. But in where in centralized, it's not like that. You relied on one team. Okay. Here also you can uh, make decision tailored to your needs, you know. And I told about the flexibility, it is very flexible. And the disadvantage is harder to ensure everyone follows the same standards, because different teams they can enforce like different rules, so it's harder to follow the same standards. Here, inconsistency across the teams. Okay. So that is also one of the disadvantage. So next we will see about the GDPR rules principles. Okay. So this is next topic, GDPR principles. Okay. Take any image. So you have a visual understanding, Uh, yeah, let's take this. These are the seven. Okay. Let me. Or else I'll open from here only. Full screen. Yeah. So you can see there are like seven principles, GDPR. GDPR is something like a law, you know, every company has to follow to protect the data. Okay. So we will see there are like seven principles. We'll see each. The first is lawful fairness and transparency. It is nothing but, okay, I'll give um example for each. Nothing but, okay, if a company, you know, collects some personal data, so they must tell people like how the data will be used and who will have access to it and how long it will be kept. Okay. It's simple, company will collect the data. They should tell, how the data will be used and who will use the data and like how long it will be kept. That's it. The next is purpose limitation. But we see lawful, fair, lawful, uh, fairness and transparency, right? So next is purpose limitation. Okay. So here, if a company collects your data, for example, like consider as email address, okay, for sending you some newsletter or something, okay, okay. So they cannot like later use it to send you promotional offers unless you agree to that use. Okay. So there should be a this limitation. Okay, I'm using your data for this, not behind that. Okay. Next is data minimization. Okay. So if a company just needs your name and email, for example, to send you a newsletter. Okay. So they should ask for additional information uh, your address or phone number, unless it is essential. Okay. So they should not ask, for example, like, okay, I'm I have a I have a company, okay, I have some application. So where I use your name and email to send you some newsletter, something. Okay. Okay. Here, I should use only this, additional information like, if I want to use, for example, additionally address or phone numbers. That is essential, then I have to, or else if I shouldn't use. Okay. So this is data minimization. Yeah. Next is accuracy. So if a company has your old address, for example, they must update it if you provide them with your new address, you know. So that accuracy has to be maintained. Suppose if you have like any old address, they must update it if you provide them, to your new address. So they shouldn't like use any old or any should be up to date. Okay. Next is storage limitation, So if you provide data to a company, so for one time, for example, like, company like for one time purchase, something like that. Company should not store your data indefinitely, you know. They should keep it for as long as they need. As long as they need, they should keep the data. They should not like keep for a longer period of time. So this agreement they have to make. Like it is when I have to use data. After that, I should not use that. So the storage limitation also is the one of principle here. Next is security. So here company must use a strong password or something, encryption and secure the storage, protect your personal data. That's it. Okay. Next is accountability. So the company must be able to show through documentation. So what all they do, so they have to put in a documentation, so that they are following the rules when they're processing data, you know. Yeah. So this is nothing but the accountability. So these are the seven GDPR principles, you know. Uh, okay. Next, we will see about the pseudo di pseudonymization. Okay. I don't know like how to spell that. Sorry. Mm, let's go to the data pseudonymization. Let me see a good image for this so that yeah, this would be correct. Yeah. So pseudo pseudonymous data is nothing but so it's a technique where personal data is replaced with pseudonym. So your pseudonym is nothing but it's like a code, or a fake name, something like that. So basically, we do this to protect the privacy. Okay. So by doing this, what happens? So it helps organization use data for purpose like you know analysis. So while still protecting individual identities. So basically, if the organization want to do some analysis, still they want to protect individual identity without getting exposed. So they, this scenario, they use this pseudonymous data, Okay, let me take an example, Let's say you have a list of people with the following date. For example, John Smith or John Doe something. So he has some details like email, birth, address. So what I will do is I will use this data pseudonym. Now what happens here, So after I apply that, this could be the whatever the data, the real data, I have, it will be transferred into, for example, you see the name is John Doe, right? So that will be converted to something like for example, like 765, something like a code, you know. So here this is called a pseudonym. This code, whatever you see, right? For example, here you see name as John Doe, right? So after that it's get transferred, the name becomes 7645665. So this is something like a pseudonym. And only someone with special key, can link his 784. 566 back to John Doe, real identity. So you can say, okay, what are the benefits we by doing this will get? Privacy protection, you know, data security. And by doing this, we are complying with the GDPR, you know, and we reduce impact in case of data breach. Okay. And also there are some limitation. So it's not completely anonymous data. In anonymous data, what happens, we will completely remove or delete all the data. Where here we don't do that, you know. So it's not a good solution, this one. Yeah. So this is nothing but a data pseudonymization. Okay. And next, we will see about some new concepts called data controller and data processor. Hmm? Okay, let me see a good. Uh, mm, okay, let me take. Okay. So here, data controller means so in the organization, you know, insights the data controller in the organization, he will decides why and how personal data will be used. Okay. So why and how personal data will be used, that is data controller. Okay. And here that is the role of the data controller. And here he has control over how and why data is used. Yeah. For example, company running a website, hospital, or government agency. So they all are for example, take any application, for example, online store. So they are nothing but a data controller, you know. So their main responsibility for them is they ensure the data is lawfully and transparently by following the all GDPR things and all. Okay. And you see data processor, you know, data processor or something like is an organization in an organization, that it is also an organization. Okay. So, but here process the data. Here in data controller, they will tell like how and uh, why data will be used. And in data processor, they will tell how the data is processed on behalf of the data controller. Okay. Example, consider third party payment gateway or cloud provider. These all you can consider as data processor. So they follow the controller instructions. A simple example I will tell. Okay. Imagine that data controller has online. Okay. So they will, in an online store, it will tell like, okay, why and how the user personal data is used. Okay. But these data, you know, there should be somewhere which has to be processed, right? So these are nothing but a data processor. Okay. For that online store, I use a cloud provider. something called AWS or Amazon or something. So they are called data processors. So these data processor will follow the controller instructions, you know. So basically, here they will ensure data is processed securely as instructed by the data controller. That's it. So this is nothing but data processor and versus data controller GDPR. Okay. Next, we will see about the data protection impact assessment. Okay. Is some good image. Okay, this could be a good. This could help. Yeah. So basically, this DPIA is nothing but is a tool. Okay, so that help organization make sure they are not putting people privacy at risk. You know, when handling their personal data. So whenever GPIA will is a tool that makes sure that they are not putting people privacy at risk when they are handling their personal data. So it will help organization to identify risks, and take steps to mitigate those risks before the project starts. Okay. So before any project starts, what happens? By using this DPIA tool, we can uh, identify risks and we take some action to mitigate those risks to prevent the risk, you know, before any project starts. So it's part of following the law, like GDPR and protecting people privacy. So why we use this? Basically to prevent risks, you know, when when we use this. So for example, like when you using any new technology, so whenever you process some sensitive data, the time you go with this, So how does it work? You know, uh, when you describe the data, first, what are the steps? You can see this image will help us to understand. Basically, how does it work is first you have to describe the data use. Okay, you have to tell like what all the data you are using. Okay, and you then after that, like you have to evaluate the risk. You know, okay, what all the risk will happen, evaluate it, okay, and take action to reduce the risk. So these are the risk I have. For this, what action I can do so that the risk will get reduced. And then consult authorities, if required. For example, if you need any consultation with so you can consult, you know and then document everything at the end. Okay, so these are the 5 steps you have to follow. Okay, I'll give you an example. Imagine you developing a fitness app, something like that. Okay, so that tracks people heart rate, steps, and sleep patterns. Okay, uh, you need to carry out DPIA for the app. Okay, because you are collecting here the sensitive data, that is something like something called as health information, which is very sensitive, isn't it? So if someone hacks your app, it exposes personal information. When it is cause, which is a privacy risk, you know, in the DPIA, what you will do is you would describe the data you are collecting. Okay. For example, like heart rate, step example. Then you will identify the risk, what all the risk will happen. Then you will plan action to reduce the risk. So I think that is about the data protection impact assessment. Okay. And lastly, we will see a concept called data steward and data protection officer. These are some roles, data governance we have to see. Let's see. Hmm, Data steward can find lot of data steward. I don't find, but I can find lot of EPU images. Okay, first I will explain you data steward. Okay, think this might help. Yeah. Okay. Data towards nothing but is like a okay, we have a data to take care of the data, it's like a caretaker of a data, you know. He that's their role, you know. Basically, they make sure the data is accurate, and organized. Accurate in a sense there is no mistakes in the data, and organized make sure that easy to find, the data is organized in such a way that like they are very easy to find and used properly by the people and for the right, you know. So these are the main three you have to keep in mind. That is, data stewards will make sure the data is accurate, organized and used properly. Okay. Okay. Simple real world example I will take. Consider take a librarian, so who make sure the books are in the right place, uh, whether like it right place and like whether the books are dated and whether easy to find. So this is something like uh they are managing it, books are in the right place, updated. So this kind of is like a caretaker is taking care of that whatever. Likewise, data stewards will take caretaker of the data. You know, here the librarian also make sure the information in the library is correct, like checking if the author names are spelled right. So these are the role of data stewards. You know, then we will see about data protection officer. Hmm? Okay, this might help. Okay. DPU is called is something you can consider as a guard, for personal information. It's like a guard for people personal information. So here their role is they make sure the company is following the rules about privacy and keeping data safe. Okay. DPOs are like a guard, okay. They will mm, take they'll make sure, all the companies, they are is following rules about privacy of the data and keeping the data safe. So these are the key jobs, of the DPO. So they make sure the company is following data laws. Data laws, in a sense, they are following GDPR principles, all these things they will check, you know, and protect people privacy and their personal information. Okay. And if something goes wrong, like a data breach, the DPO will make sure the company handles it properly. Okay. And tells the right people. So basically, they make sure the company is following data laws. That is nothing but GDPR, and they protect people privacy and their personal information. And if something go wrong, for example, like a data breach, so the DPO will make sure how to handle it properly and tells the right people what to do if some data breach happens. Okay, let's take me a simple example. Okay, think of the DPO as a security guard. Okay, at a bank or something. So their job is to make sure no one can steal your personal information, you know, and that the bank follows rules, keep your data safe. So I think you got overview of this data stewards and data protection officer, I believe. And I think these are the main things, like if you're for a data governance. So next we will see in a different topic. Thank you.